Hi, welcome to Mortality with Meep. Today I'm still looking at total mortality in the US from 2020, looking at the age group 45 to 74. I'm sorry, it's a 30-year span, but that's what the CDC chose for this dashboard. So excess deaths associated with COVID-19, link is in the video description. Go over all of the text, it explains everything. Select weekly number of deaths by age. I selected 2 of the age groups, and this is the entire United States. We see that 3-wave structure that we see elsewhere, but what's interesting about the younger age groups is other than like a very clear spike and down and summer wave and then winter, there is an elevated mortality throughout. So it never really comes back down to normal mortality. It is elevated throughout. We have a spike, kind of a gentle wave in the summer, and then it's increasing in the winter. And again, don't trust the last few weeks. There's missing data. There is lag in reporting. That wave could continue to grow, and this third wave could be worse for these age groups than that initial spring spike. We're going to go again from the largest 10 states to see what their patterns look like. And yeah, it's going to look a lot like what we saw with the oldest age. Now, in terms of generations, 65 to 74, of course, are baby boomers. But the youngest boomers, there are some boomers in this 45 to 64 age group. Indeed, the peak birth years, so let's see, the peak birth years were 1957 and 1958. So those are people in their early 60s. Another thing to note, yeah, these gray lines, these are the deaths for these age groups from 2015 to 2019. Each year is its own line. But these are at about the same level. Well, yeah, 65 to 74 years is a 10-year group, and then 45 to 64 is a 20-year group. Another thing to note, so the younger ones here, that's Gen X, that's me. I'm in this 45 to 64 group. We're a baby bust, and so there were fewer of us than the baby boomers at birth. And there's more Gen Xers than baby boomers now, but that's because the boomers are dying. Anyway, so we have these 3 waves. Let's start with California and see how that goes. Okay, so this is pretty noisy. There does seem to be a little bit of that spring excess, and there is an elevated for the 65 to 74. There is definitely a summer wave, and there is definitely a winter wave going on in California. But as mentioned in prior video, it's a large state geographically, and it's the largest state in a population. Let me just show you, they estimated almost 40 million people. Yeah, that's like a European country. So let's go down to our next one. I'm sorry, it's Texas, right? Of course, it's the other very large state. I mean, Alaska is very large geographically, but not many people there. So for Texas, not really a lot going on in the spring, a little bit of elevated mortality, but definitely a summer wave, and it has continued. It's not really a wave in the winter, it just continues at an elevated mortality. And again, don't trust that drop off that we see. That's just a lag in reporting. It will probably continue to have elevated mortality for a while. Let's go to Florida. Yep, not much going on in the spring, a little bit. But yep, spring, summer wave, winter wave. So something to note, these are different states in different geographic locations in the country. The different governors and, of course, local, mayors, county governments and that kind of thing had different policies. It is not clear the policies had much effect on the ultimate mortality. Just something to keep in mind. So we're going to do New York State before we do New York City. New York State. Remember, New York State is New York State minus New York City, because New York City had its own spike, and New York City is the location that had the worst mortality period in the United States. There is a big spring spike for this age group, and we can see 65 to 74 has elevated mortality in this winter wave. There was no summer wave in New York State. The spring up and then down back to normal. For the younger age groups, we do see there is some elevated mortality for the 45 to 64 set. So the middle aged, has some increased. But, in the summertime, not too bad. It's about what it was before. So let's look at New York City. Boom. And it's a little bit of extra mortality in the winter, but it's almost all was front loaded into April and May. That spike, if I remember correctly, is April 11th from 2020. Very rapid rise and then a pretty rapid drop too. When you get a mortality count change that rapid, it's an asteroid hit. Well, if an asteroid hit, it'll all be in one day. Well, okay, maybe you have lingering people and that kind of thing, but it's going to be something like a pandemic. And boop boop. What can I say? And it's been at pretty normal levels. Now, people have been moving out of New York City. If we did it at a rate basis, maybe it changes. But, these groups actually, and you can see this on the scale, generally don't have a lot of deaths to begin with. This is a 600% spike on like middle age and above in New York City. It was really, really bad in New York. Right, Pennsylvania comes next. Bit of a noise. There's a little bit of the spring, not really anything in the summer. Okay, there is some extra mortality in the summer for 65 to 74, but it looks like most of the action, as it were, is coming in this winter wave for Pennsylvania for the middle-aged and, younger seniors, I guess you could call them. Illinois. So Illinois had kind of this slow hump starting in the spring and going a little bit into early summer. But they have the winter wave as well. And then Ohio. Ohio, not much. It does look like, and it's kind of noisy. Maybe there's some stuff going on in the summer, but it's almost all the winter wave for Ohio. And we see this in the Midwest in general. A lot of those places didn't get either a spring or a summer wave. But yeah, it starts getting cold in the Midwest, especially the upper Midwest when we get to Michigan. We'll see that. If we go to Georgia, we're seeing a summer wave of extra mortality. And not really much in the December. So that's kind of interesting. Like Florida and Georgia, maybe not so much in the winter. I'll just go back to Florida for a moment. There is some extra, especially for the older people. There's extra mortality, but not so much going on here. And in Georgia, it's like, this is kind of noisy. And then add North Carolina and then Michigan. So then we'll do North Carolina, which still, we know about the data issue. North Carolina had a summer wave. And I don't know anything past October 1st, and they don't even have, full data for October 1st. What's up, North Carolina? And then Michigan. So Michigan is our upper Midwest. So we have Detroit, boom, and nothing really going on in the summer and a winter wave. So, check out your own state. And again, remember, this is total deaths, not COVID deaths. I'll look at COVID deaths another time because there's a lot of things that killed people in 2020. Plenty of people still died of cancer and heart disease. And there were other causes of death that we'll look into as well. Some of them are here in the CDC dashboard. Anytime you change this, remember to click on the Update Dashboard button to explore this data yourself. So you don't have to sit around waiting for me to make new spreadsheets and new graphs. But the thing is, they, of course, do not necessarily graph all the things that we are interested in with regards to mortality for 2020. Thank you, and talk to you later.